Ladies, I want you to take a deep breath and think about your life for a moment. Think about your relationships, the ones that were filled with promises and potential, but somehow they never quite worked out. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. God, why didn't this work? Why didn't I get what I wanted? Well, I'm here to tell you today, the very reason things didn't work out is because God was protecting you. I know it might not always feel that way, especially when your heart aches from disappointment or confusion, but trust me, sometimes the greatest protection God gives us comes in the form of unanswered prayers and closed doors. So if you're struggling with why things haven't worked out yet, I need you to listen closely, because God's got your back in ways you can't even imagine. Ladies, let's talk about something that hits deep. We've all been there, feeling like we're not seen, not heard, or just not valued the way we know we should be. It's that quiet ache in the chest when you give and give and give, but you never truly appreciate it. You start to wonder, am I worth it? You start questioning yourself, wondering if the love you're giving is the love you deserve to receive in return. But let me tell you something, and I want you to hear me clearly. God will never allow you to settle for someone who doesn't see your value. Imagine this. You've been working hard on yourself. You've spent time healing, growing, and becoming the woman you were always meant to be. You've fought battles no one even knows about, and you've come out stronger, wiser, and more beautiful than before. And then you meet someone who doesn't see all of that. They're too distracted by their own insecurities, too focused on their own agenda to truly see what's in front of them. They don't see your worth, your brilliance, or your heart. Instead, they take you for granted. This happens in everyday life too. Maybe you've experienced it in a friendship where you've always been the one giving, always showing up, always there to support, but when it's your turn, they're nowhere to be found. You start to wonder, is this how it's supposed to be? Am I supposed to just keep giving without ever receiving? But listen, this is where God steps in. God will never allow you to stay in a place where you are undervalued. He sees you. He sees all the work you put in. He knows the strength it took to become who you are. And when someone doesn't see that, He's not going to let you settle. He's not going to let you waste your time on someone who doesn't understand your value. He's protecting you from them, even when it hurts, even when you don't understand why things aren't working out. So the wrong man, the one who doesn't value you, isn't meant to be a part of your story. Let me give you an example from real life. I remember a story from a friend of mine. She was in a relationship for years, pouring her love, her time, and her heart into this man. She would always drop everything to make sure his needs were met, whether it was emotionally, financially, or physically. But when it came time for her to get the support she needed, when she was going through a tough season and needed someone to hold her up, he was nowhere to be found. He was too busy, too distracted by his own life to notice that she was hurting. She began to question herself. What's wrong with me? Why am I not enough? Why does he not care the way I care for him? But as time went on, she realized that he wasn't the one. God wasn't allowing her to stay in a place where she wasn't valued. Eventually, she found the strength to walk away. And as painful as it was, as much as it hurt to let go, she found peace. She started to see her own worth in a way she hadn't before. She began to realize that she had always been enough, and the problem was never her. It was that she had been giving herself to someone who didn't appreciate her. This is the kind of story that can feel like a personal loss, but it's not. It's a setup for something better. God doesn't want you to stay in situations where you're not cherished, not honored, and not respected. He knows that you deserve more than just being good enough for someone. He created you with a purpose, with value that is far beyond anything the wrong man can see. When you settle for someone who doesn't see that, you're settling for less than what you're meant for. And that's where God steps in, lovingly guiding you away from those people who can't see the treasure right in front of them. Think about it like this. You've got a beautiful, rare diamond. This diamond is precious, something that should be treated with care, with respect, and with reverence. But imagine if you handed that diamond to someone who didn't understand its value, who didn't appreciate its brilliance, who just tossed it around carelessly. Would you want that diamond to stay with that person? Of course not. You'd want to protect it, to make sure it's placed in the hands of someone who can see it for what it is. That's exactly what God is doing for you. He's not going to let the wrong person hold your heart. So when a man doesn't see your worth, don't take it as a personal reflection of you. Take it as God protecting you. Don't take it as a failure. Take it as God closing that door, because he knows someone better is coming. Someone who will cherish you, respect you, and value you the way you've always deserved. And don't let anyone tell you that you're too much. Don't let anyone make you feel like your love is too big, too overwhelming, or too strong. Your love is a gift. It's a treasure. And God has created you to be a blessing to someone who will honor that. He won't allow you to stay in situations where your love is wasted, where your kindness is overlooked, or where your beauty is taken for granted. You are worth more than that. The next time you find yourself questioning why things didn't work out with someone, remind yourself God was protecting you. He was keeping you from a situation where you would have been undervalued, unappreciated, and not cherished. The wrong man won't value your worth, but the right man will. And in the meantime, God will make sure you're learning to value yourself, to love yourself, and to recognize the priceless treasure that you truly are. Have you ever been in a relationship that took up so much of your time, energy, and emotional space that you began to lose sight of who you were? You started out focused, full of dreams and goals, but somewhere along the way you found yourself caught up in someone else's life, someone else's needs, someone else's world. You started drifting, feeling like you couldn't quite keep your head above water. Your passion, your purpose, those things you were so certain about before seemed to slip away, one small compromise at a time. You didn't even notice it happening until it was too late. But here's the hard truth. The wrong man will distract you from your purpose. And this isn't just a small distraction. It's a major detour from the path that God has laid out for you. It's not just about falling in love or feeling like you're connecting with someone. It's about how deeply a relationship can pull you away from what you're truly meant to do in this world. And when you lose that sense of purpose, you lose a part of yourself, a part that can't be easily reclaimed. Let me paint a picture for you. I had a friend who was an aspiring writer. She had always loved words, always dreamed of publishing books, creating stories that would inspire others. For years, she had been working hard, writing every day, building a future for herself, and aligning her life with her passion. She was motivated, driven, and her dreams seemed so close she could almost taste them. But then she met someone. At first, it was everything you would expect, those butterflies, the late night talks, the promises of forever. But slowly over time, she began to notice something. Every time she got excited about a new project, every time she sat down to write, there was the text message, a call, a plan to meet up. Little by little, the things that once brought her joy, the things that used to set her soul on fire, began to slip away. She started missing deadlines. She found herself canceling plans to write because something more important came up. She didn't even notice it at first. She thought it was just love. But one day she woke up and realized she was no longer the woman she had set out to be. She was losing herself, losing the very things that had given her life meaning. Relationships she had gotten so caught up in, the man who had once made her feel alive was now the very thing holding her back from her purpose. That's the thing about the wrong man. He might seem like a source of comfort, but he's often a distraction. He'll ask for more and more of your time, your energy, your focus, until your dreams, your goals, and your calling take a back seat. And when that happens, you begin to lose sight of who you are and what you've been placed on this earth to do. Now, I'm not saying that love, companionship, or a relationship isn't important, far from it, but the right relationship will encourage you to grow, to thrive, to be more of who you are meant to be. The wrong man, however, will make you doubt that. He'll pull you away from your dreams, your purpose, and the plans God has for your life. And he'll do it so subtly, you won't even see it happening. One day you'll wake up and realize you spent so much time pouring into someone else's life, you've forgotten to pour into your own. Let me share another story, this one a little closer to home. I know a woman who had always dreamed of becoming a doctor. She was passionate about helping people, driven by a deep sense of purpose. Her grades were on point, her internships were lining up, and everything was headed in the right direction. But then she met someone. And for a while, everything felt perfect. He made her laugh. He listened to her. And she started seeing a future with him. She thought to herself, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the relationship that will complete me. But as the relationship grew, so did the distractions. He wanted more of her time. He didn't understand why she couldn't just drop everything to be with him. He didn't understand the long hours she needed to put into her studies. He didn't get why she had to miss dates or cancel plans, because she was focused on her purpose. Slowly, her grades slipped. She started showing up late for work. Her dream, the very thing she had worked for all her life, began to feel distant. At first, she tried to balance it all, trying to please him and still be the woman she once was. But deep down, she knew something wasn't right. She was getting distracted. She was falling behind. And worst of all, she was starting to question whether she really had it in her to be the doctor she always dreamed of being. The relationship was clouding her vision, and it felt like the very thing that had once felt so right was now standing in the way of everything she had worked for. Here's the reality. When you're with someone who doesn't support your dreams, who doesn't understand your purpose, that relationship becomes a drain. It takes everything from you without ever giving anything back. And if you're not careful, you can lose yourself in it. You can lose that fire that once burned so brightly in your soul. The wrong man will make you doubt your purpose, make you feel like your dreams are too big, too far out of reach, or maybe not even worth pursuing. But here's the thing you need to remember. Your purpose is the most important thing you have. It's what gives you meaning. It's what keeps you going on those hard days. And it's the reason you wake up every morning with a sense of excitement. Don't let anyone take that from you. Don't let anyone distract you from the very reason you're here. God has a plan for your life that is greater than anything you could imagine. But you have to stay focused. The wrong man can't see that. He's too caught up in his own distractions, too focused on his own world to understand what you're called to do. But the right man will walk alongside you, supporting you, cheering you on as you chase your purpose and never pulling you away from it. You are destined for greatness, and you don't have time to let anyone, man or woman, distract you from that. The moment you recognize that, you'll begin to see the distractions for what they are, nothing more than obstacles in the way of your divine calling. And once you step aside from the wrong man, you'll be able to see your path more clearly than ever before. Let's be real for a moment. Love is supposed to bring peace. It's supposed to be the place where you find comfort, safety, and reassurance. When you're with the right person, there's a sense of calm, a knowing that everything is going to be okay no matter the storm. Love should never feel like a constant battle, like you're fighting to prove your worth, or like you're constantly walking on eggshells, afraid that one wrong move will bring the whole relationship crashing down. But that's exactly what happens when you're with the wrong man. He brings more pain than peace. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you couldn't breathe? Where you found yourself constantly anxious, always second guessing, always questioning if you were enough or if he was really there for you? It's that gut-wrenching feeling when you wake up next to someone, but you still feel alone. You know deep down that something isn't right, but for some reason you keep convincing yourself that things will get better, that love will fix it all. But love isn't supposed to bring you pain. The wrong man will make you feel like you're not enough, and no matter how much you give, how much you try, it's never going to be enough for him. I I know a woman who was in a relationship that seemed perfect at first. He was charming, sweet, and treated her like a queen. But over time, things started to shift. He became possessive, controlling, and started to chip away at her self-esteem. Every argument left her feeling drained, empty, like a part of her was being stripped away. He would say things like, "You're just too sensitive," or "You don't understand me." Slowly, she started to question herself, wondering if she was crazy, if she was the one at fault. Every day became a battle to keep the peace, to keep him happy, even if it meant sacrificing her own peace of mind. But that's the thing about the wrong man. He's never going to bring you the peace you deserve. Instead, he'll create a constant storm in your life. You'll be emotionally battered by his words, his actions, his neglect, and you'll find yourself trying to hold it all together, trying to fix him, trying to make him see your worth. The truth is, you can never fix someone who doesn't even know how to value themselves, let alone value. There's something so painful about loving someone who can't return that love in the way you need. It's like trying to pour water into a cup that's already cracked. No matter how much you give, it just leaks out. The wrong man will drain you, not only emotionally, but spiritually and mentally. You'll find yourself losing sleep, losing your sense of self, and wondering why things just don't feel right. That pain you feel in your chest, that constant heartache, is a sign that you're giving to someone who isn't capable of giving back. You're being asked to carry the weight of a relationship that isn't meant for you, and the longer you stay in that situation, the heavier the burden becomes. Another example comes to mind. This one from a friend who found herself in a relationship that was, from the outside, what many would call ideal. He was handsome, successful, and had everything going for him. But every time she shared her dreams, her ambitions, or her plans for the future, he would laugh it off, belittle her ideas, or make her feel like they weren't important. At first, she thought it was just a joke, but over time, she began to feel smaller and smaller. Every achievement, every victory was diminished by his comments. Her confidence slowly started to wither away. It was a slow process. Pain like that often is. It's the kind of pain you don't even realize you're experiencing until it's too late. You get so used to the hurt, to the emotional neglect, that you start accepting it as your new normal, but deep down your soul is crying out for peace, for someone who will appreciate you, support you, and encourage you to be the best version of yourself. The wrong man won't provide that. Instead, he will make you feel like you're always falling short, like you're never going to measure up to his standards, no matter how much you try to fit into your life. And here's the kicker. When you're with the wrong man, your peace becomes a distant memory. Your joy becomes conditional, dependent on his mood, his actions, and his ability to show you affection. But that's not how love is supposed to work. Love is supposed to be the safe place. The place where you can rest, where you can be yourself without fear of judgment or rejection. But when you're with someone who only brings pain, that peace slips away and you start to question everything. You start to doubt your own worth, your own value. And before you know it, you're lost in the cycle of trying to please someone who will never be pleased, trying to fix someone who will never be whole. I know another woman who spent years trying to make her relationship work. She loved him with everything she had. She was all in, sacrificing her time, her energy, and even her dreams for him. But no matter how much she gave, it was never enough. He constantly criticized her, pushed her away when she needed support, and made her feel like she wasn't worthy of love. The emotional toll was unbearable. And despite all of her efforts to make him happy, he was always distant, cold, and unloving. She began to feel like she was drowning, trying to keep the relationship afloat while her own mental and emotional health deteriorated. It wasn't until she walked away that she realized just how much peace she had been missing. The moment she let go of that toxic relationship, she could finally breathe again. She could sleep without feeling anxious, wake up without the dread of the next argument, and start rebuilding her life without the weight of someone else's pain holding her down. That's what the wrong man does. He brings more pain than peace. It's a constant emotional roller coaster. And no matter how much you love him, no matter how much you sacrifice, you can never get off the ride. You'll find yourself caught in a loop of heartbreak, exhaustion, and self-doubt. But peace, true peace, can only come when you let go of what's hurting you. The wrong man will never be able to give you the peace you deserve because he's too busy taking it away. And when you recognize that, when you finally realize that peace is worth more than the pain, that's when the real healing begins. You know, when you think about a relationship, one of the most important things that should be a part of it is a connection to something greater than just the two of you. It's the spiritual bond, the shared faith, the mutual understanding that God is the center of your lives. But what happens when the wrong man enters your life? He doesn't just affect your heart and emotions. He affects your spirit, your connection to God, and the very essence of your faith. And the hard truth is, the wrong man won't lead you to God. In fact, he can pull you further away from him without you even realizing it. Let's break this down for a moment. Imagine this. You've always been a woman of faith, someone who believes in God's promises, someone who lives her life with intention and purpose. You've prayed, sought his guidance, and trusted in his timing for everything in your life, including love. You've built a strong relationship with God, and he's always been your foundation. But then you meet someone who seems like everything you've ever wanted. He's charming, he's attractive, and he has all the right words. He talks about the future, about dreams, about the life you'll build together. But here's the catch. He doesn't share your faith. He's not interested in growing spiritually with you, and his priorities aren't aligned with the values that you hold dear. At first you might think, I can change him, or it doesn't matter, we can still be happy together. But before you know it, his influence starts to erode your spiritual foundation. You start skipping church to spend more time with him. You find yourself compromising on your values, on the things that used to be non-negotiable for you. His idea of a good time doesn't involve God, prayer, or worship. Slowly but surely you're being pulled into his world, and your relationship with God begins to fade into the background. I know a woman who went through something similar. She was deeply rooted in her faith, involved in her church, and had a strong relationship with God. But when she met him, she felt like she'd found everything she had been praying for. He was charismatic, thoughtful, and in the beginning, he even attended church with her. But over time, things started to shift. His priorities were different. He didn't understand the importance of prayer, of putting God first in every decision. Slowly, their relationship became more about physical connection than spiritual connection. When she would talk about God, he would brush it off or even mock her. He didn't understand why it was such a big deal that they were not equally yoked. And he would often say things like, why do we need to go to church all the time? Or why do we need to pray before every meal? She started making excuses for him, thinking that maybe he would come around, maybe one day he'd get it. But as time went on, she found herself drifting further from God. She would miss Bible study, skip Sunday service, and even find herself doubting the things she once held true. Her spiritual walk, which had once been so strong, became weaker. She started feeling disconnected, not just from God, but from herself. The pain of being with someone who didn't share her faith, who didn't lead her closer to God, started to take a toll on her heart. She realized that although she loved him, he was leading her away from the very thing that had kept her grounded, her relationship with God. This is the reality of being with the wrong man. He won't lead you to God. Instead, he'll pull you further away from him, even without meaning to. Relationships have a powerful influence on our lives. And when you're with someone who doesn't share the same spiritual values, that influence can be incredibly destructive. You start to prioritize things that don't matter. And the things that once mattered most, your faith, your relationship with God, and your sense of purpose, start to fall by the wayside. The wrong man won't encourage you to pray together. He won't support you when you want to get deeper into the word. He won't encourage you to stay in God's presence, and before you know it, you find yourself walking down a path that leads you away from everything you believe in. I also think about another story from a friend of mine who was in a relationship with a man who didn't understand her commitment to God. She had always been a woman of prayer, a woman who sought God first in all things. But when she met him, he didn't share that same foundation. He didn't understand why she would spend so much time in church or why she would fast and pray. At first, she thought it was just a phase. She thought that maybe if she loved him enough, he would come around and understand her faith. But the more they were together, the more she felt that tug of spiritual compromise. She started doubting her own convictions. She found herself in situations where her beliefs were tested. And instead of standing firm in what she knew to be true, she started questioning everything. She stopped attending her prayer groups. And instead of seeking God when she was struggling, she turned to him for advice. He would dismiss her spiritual concerns, making her feel like she was overreacting or being too religious. Before she realized it, she was losing herself. Her connection to God was becoming distant, and she could feel the weight of that separation. She eventually realized that the love she had for him couldn't replace the love she had for God. The man she was with couldn't guide her closer to God, and in fact, he was pulling her away from him. She made the painful decision to walk away, and in doing so, she found peace. She rediscovered her love for God, reignited her passion for prayer, and reconnected with the things that had once been so important to her. The wrong man won't lead you to God. He won't support you in your spiritual growth or encourage you to be the woman of faith that God has called you to be. Instead, he'll distract you, pull you away from your divine purpose, and make you feel like your faith is something to be ashamed of. But here's the truth. God has designed you for a life of purpose, and your purpose can never be fully realized without him. A man who loves God, who is rooted in faith, will lead you closer to your Creator, will strengthen your spiritual walk, and will help you grow into the woman you were always meant to be. If he isn't doing that, then he isn't the man God has for you, and you don't need to settle for less than what God has promised you. Imagine waking up each morning feeling a heavy weight on your chest, unsure if today will bring more heartache or fleeting moments of happiness. You tell yourself you'll try again, that maybe this time things will be different, but deep down you know the truth. The relationship is wearing you down, taking more than it gives, leaving you questioning your worth. The wrong man will bring you more pain than peace. It might not be something you notice right away, but over time you begin to feel it in the way he treats you, in the constant emotional turmoil, and in the aching gaps where love should be. Have you ever been in a relationship that left you feeling drained and emotionally bankrupt? I'm talking about those relationships where you give and you give, but all you get in return is manipulation, disappointment, and an unspoken promise that things will get better, except they never do. There's a woman I know who found herself in this exact scenario. She was in a relationship with a man who seemed perfect at first. He was charming, thoughtful, and they shared amazing chemistry. But slowly, the cracks began to show. He was inconsiderate, selfish, and emotionally unavailable. Every time she poured her heart into the relationship, he would dismiss her feelings, or even worse, use her vulnerability against her. She would cry and he would shrug it off, offering no comfort. He would make her feel guilty for expressing her emotions. "You're being too sensitive," he'd say. "It's not a big deal." But it was a big deal. Her heart was breaking, and all she wanted was someone to care, someone who could see her pain and offer love, understanding, and reassurance. Instead, she felt isolated, as though she was invisible in the very relationship she tried so hard to make work. Over time, this cycle became more familiar to her, and she found herself stuck. She started to question her worth. Was she asking for too much? Was she too demanding for wanting love, respect, and understanding in return? The truth was, she wasn't asking for too much. She was asking for the bare minimum. She was asking for someone who valued her, someone who would care for her heart as she cared for theirs. But he couldn't give her that because the wrong man is incapable of doing so. When you're in a relationship with someone who brings you more pain than peace, the emotional toll starts to show. You begin to lose pieces of yourself bit by bit. Your joy becomes conditional. If he's happy, you're happy. If he's angry or upset, you're walking on eggshells trying to fix things, trying to bring back the peace that he takes from you every time. It's a never-ending cycle of trying to please someone who will never be satisfied. You've been trying to accommodate his needs, his desires, but he doesn't appreciate your efforts. He doesn't see how much you're sacrificing. I think about another woman I know who stayed in a relationship for years with a man who constantly belittled her, making her feel like she wasn't good enough. He would criticize her appearance, question her intelligence, and undermine her dreams. Every time she made progress in her career, personal life, he'd be the first to point out why it wasn't that impressive. Every little victory, every moment of joy was dampened by his negativity. She became so accustomed to this emotional abuse that she didn't even realize how much it was hurting her. She felt like she was losing her spark, like her identity was slowly being erased. She was exhausted, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It wasn't just the words he said or the things he did. It was a constant drain on her spirit. She would go to bed feeling defeated, and she would wake up feeling like she was still trapped in the same painful cycle. But here's the thing, no one should have to live like that. No one should be in a relationship that causes them more hurt than happiness. You deserve a love that uplifts you, not one that leaves you feeling empty. The wrong man doesn't bring peace. He creates chaos. He doesn't make you feel safe. He makes you feel on edge. Every moment with him becomes an emotional roller coaster, where the highs are brief and the lows feel endless. You constantly find yourself questioning his love, your value, and your place in his life. You lose trust in your own instincts, doubting your own worth, because he is unable to affirm you. Every word of affirmation you've been searching for, you've never heard from him, and that's the painful part. When someone you love refuses to acknowledge your worth, it chips away at your confidence. It makes you question everything, even your ability to love. I also remember hearing about a friend who was in a relationship that seemed to promise everything she wanted, but the reality was far from what she had imagined. She thought he would be her partner in every sense, but instead, he was emotionally unavailable. He couldn't offer her the support she needed. He wasn't there for her during tough times, and when things were going well, he was distant, never fully present. She felt alone, even when he was right next to her. She was constantly left with an ache, a deep longing for the connection that she could never seem to reach. It wasn't the absence of love, it was the absence of true partnership, mutual respect, and emotional intimacy. The emotional weight of such a relationship is unbearable. It feels like you're carrying a burden that isn't yours to bear. The wrong man will make you feel like you have to constantly prove your love, but no matter how much you give, you'll never receive the same in return. The pain of always giving more than you get starts to become overwhelming, and you find yourself questioning whether love even has a place in your life anymore. You're exhausted, drained, and your heart becomes a place of hurt rather than joy. When you're in the wrong relationship and your peace is shattered, you begin to lose sight of what real love looks like. You start doubting that you deserve better, that you're worth the love and care that you so freely give to others. But here's the truth, you are worthy. You deserve peace. You deserve a love that nourishes your soul, not one that drains your energy and makes you feel small. The wrong man will bring you pain, yes, but the right man, God's man, will bring you peace, joy, and a love that never causes you to doubt your worth. Healing is not just about physical recovery. It's about the restoration of your spirit, the mending of your heart, and the reclaiming of your peace. It's a process that requires time, self-love, and most importantly, a safe space where you can be vulnerable, where you can acknowledge the wounds and begin the journey of becoming whole again. But what happens when you're stuck in a relationship with the wrong man? The answer is simple. He will keep you from healing. Instead of offering you the comfort and support you need to heal, he will only intensify your wounds, delay your progress, and keep you trapped in a cycle of emotional pain. Let me take you back to a time when a close friend of mine went through an incredibly tough breakup. She had been with a man who promised her the world. In the beginning, everything seemed perfect. He was kind, attentive, and made her feel like she was the most important person in his life. But over time, he changed. The kindness faded, and the emotional manipulation began. He became distant, and when she expressed her hurt, he would gaslight her, telling her that she was overreacting or that she was just too sensitive. Every time she tried to speak up about how his actions affected her, he would turn the conversation around, making her feel guilty for even bringing up the issue. Eventually, the relationship took a toll on her mental health. She felt exhausted, anxious, and emotionally drained. But the worst part wasn't just the heartbreak, it was the fact that she couldn't seem to heal. Every time she tried to move forward, every time she made progress in her recovery, something would happen. He would come back into the picture, apologizing, promising change, and for a brief moment, she would believe him. She would open her heart again, hoping that maybe this time things would be different. But instead of healing, she found herself falling back into the same toxic patterns, opening the same wounds, and the cycle of hurt continued. You see, the wrong man won't help you heal. He will keep you stuck. Instead of creating an environment of peace where you can reflect, process your emotions, and recover, he will keep stirring the pot. He will gaslight you, manipulate your emotions, and use your vulnerability against you. Every time you try to let go of the past and move forward, he'll show up, creating chaos and pulling you back into the same toxic dynamics that hurt you in the first place. And each time, you'll lose a little more of yourself in the process. You'll lose your sense of self-worth, your confidence, and your belief that you deserve something better. I remember another woman I know who was in a relationship with someone who had promised to love her through thick and thin. But instead of supporting her through her own personal struggles, he became an obstacle to her healing. She had gone through a tough family loss, and all she wanted was someone to comfort her, to remind her that she wasn't alone. But instead of providing that support, he became cold and distant about her needing too much emotional support. He would make her feel guilty for grieving, accusing her of being too needy. And when she reached out to him for comfort, he would either ignore her or tell her that she needed to get over it and move on. His lack of empathy only deepened her hurt and made her feel more isolated. Healing requires space, and sometimes it requires distance from the things and people that caused you harm. But the wrong man doesn't allow you that space. Instead, he creates an environment of chaos, uncertainty, and emotional instability, making it impossible for you to heal. The wrong man won't understand the depth of your pain. He won't be patient with you when you need time to process your feelings. He won't respect your need for emotional space, and instead will demand constant attention and validation even when you're already emotionally drained. Think about it. How can you heal when every time you start to move on, he keeps pulling you back into the past, reminding you of old wounds and unaddressed issues? How can you heal when he continually denies your feelings, telling you that you're overreacting? Or when he manipulates the situation to make you feel like you are the problem? The truth is, the wrong man will keep you in a constant state of emotional turmoil, and this turmoil will prevent you from doing the one thing you need to do: heal. A healing heart needs peace, it needs patience, it needs care, and it needs time to rebuild what has been broken. When you're with someone who doesn't understand this, you will find yourself stuck in an emotional fog, unable to see clearly enough to make healthy decisions for yourself. Every time you try to take a step forward, you're pulled 2 steps back. You begin to doubt your own ability to heal, to trust that you are worthy of peace, because the wrong man has made you believe that healing is not something you deserve. I think back to my friend who went through a similar experience. She had lost her sense of identity, her ability to trust herself, and most importantly, she had lost her faith in her own ability to heal. Every time she tried to make progress, he would appear, dragging her back into a toxic dynamic where she was always on edge, always second guessing her feelings. Instead of healing from the past pain, she found herself reliving it over and over again. It was only when she finally had the strength to walk away from that relationship that she began to heal. She took time for herself. She focused on her well-being, her spiritual growth, and her mental peace. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Healing is a journey, and it's one that requires the right support. The wrong man won't give you that support. He'll keep you in a cycle of emotional confusion, preventing you from seeing clearly and making the decisions necessary for your well-being. He'll keep you from trusting yourself and will keep you trapped in the past. If you want to heal, if you want to regain your peace and your joy, you need to remove the distractions, the toxic influences, and the people who keep you from becoming the woman you were always meant to be. The right man, one who truly loves you and respects your emotional needs, will be the one who helps you heal. He will be the one who gives you the space and love you need to regain your strength. Healing is one of the most transformative and powerful journeys a person can embark on. It's a journey of reclaiming your peace, restoring your confidence, and finding your true self again. However, that healing process requires space, understanding, and a nurturing environment. What happens when the person who should be supporting you, the person you trust, is the one standing in the way of your recovery? The wrong man will keep you from healing. Instead of offering the care, understanding, and patience you need to rebuild, he will continuously pull you back into emotional turmoil, leaving you with a sense of being stuck, broken, and lost. I want you to imagine for a moment a woman who has gone through deep emotional pain, a loss, a betrayal, or an abusive relationship. She's doing everything she can to heal, attending therapy, practicing self-care, and trying to reclaim her life. But there's one problem. Every time she starts to heal, every time she takes a step forward, he's there. He's the wrong man. He comes back into her life, first with promises, then with manipulation, and before she knows it, she finds herself tangled in his web of confusion and emotional distress. Every step she took to heal is undone because the very person she's trying to move away from is the one who keeps pulling her back into the pain. You see, the wrong man doesn't create an environment of support or encouragement. Instead, he brings chaos and confusion into your life, making it nearly impossible to find peace. You can't heal when the emotional wounds you're trying to close keep being reopened by someone who doesn't understand your journey. How can you heal when every time you try to let go of the past, he keeps dragging you back into it? How can you heal when every time you express your pain, he either dismisses it, invalidates it, or makes it about him? Think about a friend who was in a relationship with someone who seemed to love her but consistently failed to understand her pain. She had experienced a traumatic event in her life, and all she needed was someone who would stand by her side, offering comfort, understanding, and compassion. Instead, she found herself with a man who would become impatient with her healing process. He couldn't understand why she needed so much time to recover. He would tell her, "It's been long enough, you should be over it by now." And whenever she tried to open up about how she was feeling, he would either shut her down or redirect the conversation back to his own needs. Her emotional wounds remained raw, not because she didn't want to heal, but because the man she was with couldn't offer her the patience and support she needed. Instead of feeling heard, validated, and cared for, she felt misunderstood and rejected. The wrong man won't allow you to heal. He doesn't give you the room to process your emotions. Instead, he expects you to be fine and moves on as if nothing happened, forcing you to wear a mask of emotional stability even when your heart is in pieces. Healing takes time. It takes understanding. It takes being able to lean on someone who sees your pain and is willing to stand with you as you work through it. But the wrong man doesn't offer that. He adds to your emotional weight, making it harder to carry the burden of healing. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're constantly trying to please someone who just doesn't understand you? A situation where you feel like you're doing all the work, but they're not meeting you halfway. That was exactly what my friend experienced. She found herself constantly trying to be someone she wasn't just to make him happy. She would suppress her pain, her grief, and her vulnerability because she thought that if she just ignored it, it would go away, because the pain didn't go away. Instead, it festered. She was so focused on trying to keep him happy that she neglected her own healing process. Every time she opened up, it was either met with indifference or criticism, and it hurt even more. You see, when you're with the wrong person, you're forced to live in an emotional prison where your feelings don't matter. You begin to doubt your own needs, and you start to wonder if you're the problem. You tell yourself that maybe you're asking for too much. But the reality is, he's the one who doesn't understand. He's the one who is holding you back. He's the one who doesn't give you the space to feel, to heal, and to grow. Healing requires time, space, and emotional safety. You can't heal if you're constantly walking on eggshells, afraid to express your emotions for fear of being judged or misunderstood. I also think about another woman who was in a relationship with a man who loved her, but he didn't love her in the right way. He was controlling, manipulative, and constantly made her feel like she wasn't enough. Every time she tried to express her feelings or tell him what she needed, he would make her feel small, saying things like, "You're too much," or "Why can't you just be happy?" The more she tried to open up, the more he pulled away. The more she needed him, the less he was there. Instead of helping her heal, he pushed her into a space of self-doubt and insecurity. She felt as though her healing was being delayed by someone who wasn't willing to meet her needs, and it left her feeling exhausted and unworthy of real love. Healing from emotional pain isn't linear. It isn't simple. And it isn't something that can be rushed. But the wrong man doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand that you need time to rebuild yourself, to reclaim your confidence, and to heal from past wounds. He doesn't understand that your emotional needs are just as important as his. He doesn't understand that by pushing you to move on before you're ready, he's only keeping you stuck in a place of pain and confusion. The wrong man will hold you hostage in your own emotional turmoil, preventing you from finding the peace and healing that you deserve. And here's the thing, healing starts with you. You must be willing to stand firm in your own worth, to demand the space and support you need to heal, and to recognize when someone is standing in your way. If the person you're with isn't allowing you to heal, isn't offering the care and understanding you deserve, then it's time to take a step back and recognize that this relationship is holding you back from becoming the person you were always meant to be. The right person will walk alongside you as you heal. They will be patient, they will listen, and they will allow you to take the time you need to recover. But the wrong man, he will continue to hold you back, to keep you stuck, and to prevent you from reaching the emotional freedom you deserve. Boundaries are the invisible lines we draw around ourselves to protect our peace, our emotional well-being, and our sense of self. They are not walls, but rather gates that allow healthy relationships to flourish while keeping out toxicity. When we set boundaries, we are communicating to others what we need in order to feel safe, respected, and loved. Yet, there are people who will cross those boundaries without a second thought, not because they don't see them, but because they simply don't respect them. The wrong man will not respect your boundaries, and when that happens, the foundation of your self-respect, dignity, and inner peace is slowly eroded. Think about a time when you've tried to communicate your needs clearly. Maybe you've said, "I need space to process my feelings," or "I need you to be more honest with me." At first you think it's simple enough. After all, you're just asking for respect, for honesty, for understanding. But instead of honoring your request, The wrong person pushes back, undermines your feelings, and makes you feel like you're asking for too much. It's as if the boundaries you set were invisible, or worse, as if they were challenges to be broken rather than respected. This is the painful reality of being with someone who doesn't value you enough to listen and honor what you need. I have a friend who was in a relationship with someone who constantly crossed her boundaries. She was clear from the beginning about what she needed: time for herself, the space to pursue her passions, and respect for her personal space. At first, he would nod, agree, and say the right things. But over time, his actions told a different story. Whenever she set a boundary, he would ignore it, push it aside, or make her feel guilty for even wanting it. If she said she needed time to focus on her career or hobbies, he would get upset, claiming that she didn't love him enough to prioritize their relationship. If she asked for some alone time to process her emotions, he would demand her attention, guilt-tripping her into feeling selfish instead of respecting her needs. He used emotional manipulation to make her feel bad for having boundaries in the first place. Every time he ignored her boundaries, she felt less and less like herself. She began to doubt whether her needs were valid, whether she had the right to ask for space, for time to heal, or for the respect that she deserved. But here's the harsh truth: a person who doesn't respect your boundaries doesn't respect you. They see your needs as inconveniences or obstacles to their own desires. They will keep pushing, and if you don't stand firm, they will keep breaking down the walls you've built to protect your peace. And before you know it, you've lost yourself. You've lost your voice. You've lost your ability to say, "This is what I need to feel safe and respected in this relationship." The wrong man doesn't see your boundaries as a reflection of your worth or your self-respect. He sees them as limitations to what he wants. Instead of taking the time to understand why you set those boundaries, he makes it about him. He doesn't acknowledge the hurt or the emotional need behind the boundary. Instead, he manipulates, makes excuses, or invalidates your feelings, telling you that you're being unreasonable, too demanding, or even selfish. The result, you begin to question your own value and whether you are worthy of setting those boundaries in the first place. I remember another woman I know who had a similar experience. She had been in a toxic relationship with a man who constantly pushed her limits. She told him from the start that she valued honesty, that she couldn't be with someone who lied or hid things from her. But over time, he began to lie about small things. And when she confronted him, he would downplay it. "It's not a big deal," he would say. "You're being too sensitive." The more she confronted him, the more he ignored her boundaries. He started gaslighting her, making her feel like she was imagining things, like her concerns were invalid. And because he didn't respect her need for honesty, the trust that should have been the foundation of their relationship was destroyed. She couldn't trust him anymore, not because she was paranoid, but because he had continuously violated her need for transparency. She was left feeling insecure and constantly questioning her own instincts. This is what happens when the wrong person is in your life. They slowly erode your self-confidence and make you feel like your voice doesn't matter. They create a space where your boundaries become negotiable, where your needs are optional, and where your worth is measured by how much you're willing to give without asking for anything in return. Here's the truth: when your boundaries are constantly ignored, you start to lose the most important relationship of all, the one you have with yourself. You stop trusting your instincts. You stop listening to your heart. You start believing that your needs don't deserve to be prioritized. But let me tell you something that is crucial to understand. Boundaries are not negotiable. They are not up for debate. They are a reflection of who you are, what you need, and what you deserve. If someone truly loves you, if they truly care for your well-being, they will respect your boundaries. They will take the time to understand why they are important to you, and they will honor them. Love doesn't demand that you compromise your peace for someone else's comfort. Love doesn't ask you to silence your needs for the sake of another person's desires. If someone truly respects you, they will support your boundaries without hesitation, because they understand that by doing so, they are supporting you. I want you to think about the relationships in your life. The ones that uplift you, that make you feel safe, seen, and heard. What do they all have in common? Respect. They respect your boundaries, your needs, and your space. When someone truly loves you, they listen when you say, "This is what I need." They won't argue with you, make you feel guilty, or try to manipulate you into changing your mind. They understand that boundaries are essential for a healthy relationship, and they honor them because they respect you as an individual, not as someone who exists to serve their wants. If you're in a relationship where your boundaries are constantly being violated, where your needs are being ignored, it's time to ask yourself, what kind of love do I truly deserve? You deserve a love that honors you, that listens to you, and that respects your peace. You are not here to be someone else's emotional doormat. You are worthy of a relationship where your voice matters, where your needs are heard, and where your boundaries are respected. Don't settle for anything less. Your boundaries are sacred, and anyone who truly loves you will treat them as such. If they don't, it's time to walk away and protect your peace. Building something meaningful in life requires effort, vision, and partnership. It's about creating a foundation that lasts, whether it's a dream, a career, or a relationship. A strong, supportive partnership allows both people to grow, thrive, and work toward a common goal. But when you're with the wrong man, he won't be the one to build with you. Instead of supporting you, lifting you up, and contributing to your dreams, he will either undermine them or fail to invest in them altogether. The wrong man will never be the one to build a future with you, because he's either not interested in the effort it takes to create something solid, or he doesn't believe in the vision you've set for your life. Imagine for a moment a woman who has big dreams. She wants to start a business, travel the world, and make an impact in her community. She's ambitious, driven, and passionate. She knows that achieving her goals will take time, focus, and a partner who shares her vision. She meets someone who seems promising at first, but soon enough she begins to realize that he's not really interested in being a part of her journey. Instead of encouraging her to follow her dreams, he criticizes her ambition. "You're too busy for me," he says. "You always have your head in the clouds." Every time she talks about her plans or the future she's building, he dismisses it. He doesn't see the value in her goals, doesn't understand why she's so focused, and certainly doesn't offer any help or encouragement. At first, she might brush it off. She might think maybe he's just stressed, or maybe he doesn't understand yet. But over time, the pattern continues. He doesn't make the effort to get involved in her dreams, to offer support, or to share her excitement. He's not asking questions about her goals, not celebrating her small wins, and certainly not planning a future together. His focus is on his own immediate gratification, his own comfort, and his own insecurities. He doesn't see her as a partner to build with. He sees her as someone who will always make room for him in her already busy life, but won't contribute anything to the foundation she's working to create. The wrong man is the kind of person who wants the benefits of a strong relationship but isn't willing to put in the work to build one. He won't help you grow. He won't encourage you when you doubt yourself. He won't push you to go further than you thought you could. Instead, he holds you back. He's not interested in a future that includes both of you moving forward together. He's more focused on his own desires and maintaining the status quo. And eventually you begin to see that. You start to realize that while you're building towards something bigger, he's standing still, not supporting you in the way you need him to. I think about a friend who had dreams of becoming a published author. She had been writing for years, and her stories were incredible, full of depth, imagination, and heart. But her boyfriend at the time couldn't see her potential. Every time she mentioned a new writing project, his response was dismissive. "Why don't you just get a real job?" he would say. "You're wasting your time. You're never going to make it as an author." Instead of offering encouragement, instead of seeing her hard work and passion for writing, he undermined it. He didn't believe in her dreams, and because of that, he wasn't willing to help her achieve them. Whenever she needed space to focus on her writing, he would complain, saying she wasn't paying enough attention to him. He didn't recognize that in order to build a life together, they both needed to contribute emotionally, mentally, and physically. eventually she started to doubt herself. She began to wonder if maybe he was right. Maybe she wasn't cut out for this. Maybe she should just give up her dreams to make him happy. And that's exactly what happens when you're with the wrong person. They don't build with you. They tear you down. They chip away at your confidence, make you second guess your vision, and even convince you that your dreams are too big, too unrealistic, or too much of a hassle. Building something requires two people who are both committed to the process. It's not about one person doing all the work while the other just enjoys the benefits. It's about a partnership where both are equally invested in the vision. And if the person you're with isn't willing to put in the effort to build with you, then the structure you're trying to create will inevitably crumble. I know a woman who has spent years trying to build a successful business. She had vision, she had determination, and she knew what she was doing, but her partner at the time wasn't supportive of her work. Every time she had an idea or a plan to grow her business, he would find reasons why it wouldn't work. You're working too hard, he would say. You need to take it easy. This is too much for you. He didn't understand that her hustle wasn't just a phase, it was a passion, a calling. But instead of offering his skills, his ideas, or his encouragement, he kept trying to convince her to slow down, to focus more on him, and to make